Okay, so I'm trying to get the shifter cable disconnected. You can kind of see it way up in there. There was a heat shield on the driver's side of the transmission that I removed. I still cannot get to the where the shifter cable connects to the transmission and remove that. So now I'm changing tactics. And I'm just going to remove this little black box. It's under the car, right where the rear drive shaft meets the front diff. And so it's just 4 bolts. They are, I want to say, yeah, they're four 10mm bolts. 1, 2, and same on the other side, 3 and 4. And then you can kind of see it, but coming out of the front of this black box is the shifter cable. So I'm just going to disconnect it from this end and stop trying to mess around with the where it actually connects to the transmission. So I'll let you know how this goes. Okay, so I just wanted to make a note of this. So I was able to swing the drive shaft down, get a little bit more room up in here. And here is where the shifter cable connects underneath the shifter handle, I guess. So you can kind of see there's a pin up in there. So I'm going to pop that pin, and then I believe the cable should come free. To get to this, I took off the 4 nuts holding the black heat shield cover on, which basically covers this up. And then I was able to just swing it forward and down. Let me see if I can get a shot back in there. Okay. There you go. So basically all I got to do is disconnect this this pin here, pop this out, probably with a pair of pliers, and then I say just separate the line from the case, so back in here. So I think there's like a clip, or yeah, I can see it here. There's like a little bit of a let's see here. There's like a clip pin or cotter pin almost type of setup here, and then it looks like the whole cable will come loose. So stay tuned. I realize it's going to be really hard to see, but I popped the retaining clip on the right hand side, which popped the shifter cable off the lever, and then I pulled the retaining clip that holds the entire setup to the housing here. I took close-up pictures, which I'll show, which give you better detail. Okay, there was one more piece to the puzzle that I wasn't quite sure and hadn't figured out, so I just looked it up. This is in the driver's side wheel well. On this lower arm, there's this sensor here, and I was wondering what the heck is this thing. So looked it up, and it's for the headlights. Apparently this sensor, the car uses this sensor to aim the headlights? I don't know. So basically, to remove this guy, you just pop off the this lower bracket here. Okay, there it is. It was just clamped down around here, and that's it. Looks like a servo motor. Okay, I just want to do a little quick recap as to what I just did. I've been working on this project over the course of multiple days, so I'm not sure how all my little video pieces will splice together in terms of explaining everything. So I just got done working under the car for a little bit, and I was trying to figure out how to disconnect the transmission gear shifter cable. And what I did was I had removed there was a heat shield over by where the shifter cable connects to the transmission itself. I removed that heat shield. It was 3 bolts, and it's on the driver's side, and I was still unable to even see or get anywhere near where the shifter cable connects to the trans. So I went the other way. So I went over to the back side of the transmission, and this is essentially underneath the gear shifter built into in the cabin of the car. So I believe they call this a heat shield, but it's the shifter cable came in the front here and then runs out to the transmission. So to remove this, it was just 4 nuts, and this popped loose. And then I had thought I had to disconnect something inside the car, so I removed the shifter handle and all that. That's not needed. Basically, I just took this, swung it down, so the shifter cable was still coming out the front of this, and then I was able to reach back in behind there and disconnect the cotter pin that actually holds the cable to the pin for the shifter. And then towards this side of the box, the front of the box, there was almost like a U-shaped detent clip. Why don't I just show you? Okay. Here's the pin. I don't know how well that'll show up. And you just pinch the pin and then slide it off. So that was towards the rear of the car. And then this is the locking clip that locked in the entire line or cable to there's a bracket underneath the car. And then from there, what I had to do from there, it was the cable was still inside this box here, and I wanted to get the cable completely free, so I didn't want to lower the transmission and have this get hung up on anything, or the drive shaft. So I did a bunch of wiggling and bending of the cable, and I finally was able to pop it free. I'll say it now, I'm sure I'm going to have a hell of a time getting that cable back in the way it needs to be once all this is done, but that'll be the least of our concerns. So at this point, I believe I'm ready to drop the subframe. So I ended up disconnecting all the electrical connectors in the passenger bulkhead and the driver's side. So there were 3 and 3. I do know one of those electrical connectors was a black one, and that was for the front O2 sensors. I have yet to find the exhaust temperature sensor, so I'm thinking that's still connected somewhere. So that's why I just undid all of the electrical connectors. I also did not touch or do anything with the RPM sensor. I believe that's on the transmission. So I left it connected to the transmission. I believe it's just 1 bolt, and that's another reason why I disconnected all the electrical connectors in the engine bay. So I believe that one of those would be feeding the RPM sensor. So by disconnecting it on that end, I don't have to remove it from the transmission side. We'll find out. I'll keep you posted. So what I'm going to do next is hook up my cherry picker to the engine. I got to basically clean up first. So I got to pick up the garage here, sweep. I have a bunch of kitty litter that I was using to pick up spilled fluids and stuff. So I'll sweep all that out, clean it all out. I'm going to swing my AC condenser around the side of the car, passenger side of the car. I'm still planning on and trying to keep that charged up, as well as the brakes. I haven't opened up the brakes or drained any brake fluid or anything like that. So I'm trying to keep the brakes intact, as well as like I said, the AC system charged up. So I'm going to put a small jack on the back of the transmission, and then the cherry picker holding up the engine, and then from there I'll just undo the subframe bolts and see what happens. So I also have a bigger jack available, so I could raise the body up higher if I need to. I would say the body's almost 2 feet off the ground. So I'm just going to lower like I said, lower the subframe with the engine and trans down and leave the body up. Yeah, this has been a learning experience. Obviously, as everyone says, this would not or will not take as long to put back together or to do again, which I may have to. I may have to do this again if I end up blowing a turbo. Going stage 2 is pushing the turbos to the max, so 20-21 psi. I did pick up a cheap set of KO3 turbos, which I had considered swapping now, but I'm going to follow what a lot of other people were thinking and what I had originally thought, where if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. So it is what it is. So yeah, I would say probably rough estimate, I have about 10 hours into the car at this point. Like I said, I've never done this before. I have no clue what I'm doing. And I'm not a mechanic by any means. So I did borrow a couple tools. The only tools I really had to borrow were the impact guns, and the engine lift. And, I did borrow some big boy jack stands and a monster jack. So all stuff that you can buy for relatively cheap. If you're working on a B5 S4, you might want to invest in this stuff anyway. A lot of people use, instead of engine lift, they'll use like a crossbar that goes above the engine to hold the engine and stuff. I wanted to be able to lower it all the way down, so that's why I'm going the route I am. I don't know. I've been trying to think. I don't know if lowering the subframe was easier than just basically pulling the engine and trans together. So if I would have pulled the engine and transmission together, I would have pulled the downpipes and cats and all that. They would have been bolted to the engine, or the turbos, which are on the engine. So I don't know, but you know what? I am thankful that I did it this route, because I did see my stock flexible brake lines in my wheel wells. Those are pretty bad. They're in bad shape. They're starting to fray where they connect to the hard line, and safety issues. So make sure you inspect your brake lines. If I think about it, I'll try to show a close-up of how bad my brake lines actually look. I'll probably just end up doing another video of me replacing the brake lines with stainless brake lines. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and we're about to have some fun. So I'm going to do some cleaning, and then I'll come back and I'm going to do a wide-angle shot of me pulling the subframe off. So stay tuned. Alright, so I was just about getting ready to drop the subframe with the engine and trans, and I noticed a problem here. So this is the AC condenser. I have it covered up by cardboard, and I'm trying to keep the system charged up, so I'm leaving all the lines intact. That way I don't got to go to a shop and pay to have it charged up. So here's what I'm seeing though, is these lines here, this back line is rigid, and it goes into a canister or something back here. So that canister is going to stay with the body, which means that line can't be lowered. There's no slack on it. So what I'm going to do is unbolt the compressor, which is over here, or at least loosen it. And you can see those silver lines there. They run all the way underneath the engine and across. So I think once I unbolt that, I can swing those lines down and take off that tension as I lower the engine when I drop the subframe. So we're gonna go that route. Didn't want to have to do it, but it looks like it's just a couple bolts. So I'm gonna remove this fan and then disconnect these bolts. Got one here, one there, and then it should be free. I gotta remove the accessory belt as well. So that's just the Allen key. So stay tuned. Okay, got a bit of a problem. I determined that I need to remove the AC compressor. So I removed the front two bolts. You can see the one dangling there. I already pulled out completely the other bolt over here. It would not break free. So what I did was I shoved a screwdriver in between the bracket and the compressor. Sorry, it won't focus. And you can kind of see it right in there. It's there's like a metal journal that kind of aligns it in with the bracket. When I shoved a screwdriver in there and hit it with a hammer, I bent that metal alignment shaft or whatever. So that's going to be a bitch to get the bolts to go back through there. I'm not happy about that. So I still cannot even get this thing loose or free. So I just looked up. I think there's a third bolt somewhere for this AC compressor. I can't find it, so it's still not like releasing or whatever, breaking free. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm wondering if the larger bolt here is the missing bolt that I can't figure out. So we're gonna try that. Like I said, I'm trying to keep the system pressurized, and just want to get this done. Let's do this.